So we have a 1996 Club Car DS. This is their gas-powered club car, and we are basically going to rejuvenate it. This is our shop or golf cart, and we use it all the time, and as you can see, it's pretty beat. Oliver, he sure loves this thing, but the seats are all messed up. This whole thing is just beat. It's seeing a lot of use and a lot of abuse. So the goal in this is we're going to replace all the wheels and tires. We got some other hub caps that we're going to put on this. We're going to replace all the seats. We're going to update the seats to the newer ones, 2005 on up. And then the rear seat is going to be one that you can fold down and put stuff on there, so we can use it a lot more for like moving things around and stuff, like generators and everything. We're going to replace the ignition because the ignition's all messed up. You can technically stick anything in there right now and turn it. I think that's about it right now. There is a few other things we'll do, but that will be later in the future. But this is the main part, just to get it back up into good functional condition. So you ready, Ollie? You ready? Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So first off, what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and pull this out. We're going to give it a quick cleaning, and then we're going to go ahead and replace the wheels. This tire has a slow leak. It's constant. So we're going to go ahead, and replace them all. So let's go ahead and push this outside, and let's go ahead and clean this thing. Going for a ride, buddy? All right, so I'm gonna take this off. This is gonna go in the bin. I'm sorry, buddy. You're gonna have to move, buddy, because we gotta clean it. Come on, Ollie. Good boy. We did a quick cleaning on it. We'll do a little more detail later, but let's go ahead and pull off these tires, or these wheels. Let's start with this guy. So when jacking up, just pick a spot. Don't put it on anything that you could bend. Make sure you can take that weight. In this case, I'm going to put on the lower A arm, right where the shock dampener is, and I'm going to lift it up by that. Grab my impact. And also, we are going to replace the headlights on this thing. The headlights on this are all messed up. We got some new ones we're gonna put on, and I will go ahead and supply a link of all the stuff that we used. It's interesting, someone put these lug nuts on backwards. How you know which way they go? The taper always goes in, and they were flipped over, so the flat end was in. All right, so Caden over here is taking the strap off. There we go. So these are our new wheels. We've got our tire valve on the outside, like so. Remember, taper right in. There we go. So got that installed. And also, what we got for this is some new hubcaps. Yeah, it's not necessary, but we're gonna try to just kind of spruce this thing up. All of this stuff, by the way, we got on Amazon. So try to find basically the best bang for the buck. I'll tally it all up for you and show you at the end of this video too. I think I spent about $1,500 for all the stuff. So here's our new hubcaps that we got for this. These little guys. And you put them on, making sure the hole, of course, goes over the valve stem. Line her up. Just like so. Now what I was doing, I was being really careful because I'll show you. So on these hubcaps, you have these little metal tabs, and then you have these plastic pieces that are holding the metal tabs in. The problem is it's pretty tight tolerance. So between here and here, you got to be careful because you don't want to have too much of an angle, otherwise you'll snap those tabs right off. Then it's just not going to properly secure. So let's go ahead and continue getting the rest of them done. So now on the front, it's kind of a big mono leaf spring on these. So I'm gonna lift it up here from the front, and then that way also I can just do both of them while I have it up. There we go. So that's it for the wheels and tires, which is actually really simple. Now that we got the tires done all the way around along with the hubcaps, we're gonna go ahead and remove all of this because we're gonna install the new one that I got. So in order to take this off, I was already kind of quickly looking at it. It's 1/2" bolts. There's 2 1/2" bolts right here. One right here. And one right here. Now with those removed, there is I believe this is 7/16, so there's a bolt here. There's supposed to be one right here, which is completely missing. So let me grab the right socket and wrench, which is over here. Okay, so with the 7/16 socket on here, hold this nut on top. Take this out. Now, this should come all the way out, just like that. Now this shouldn't be attached anymore down here. Let me set the extra bolts up here. Okay, so now, take this seat off. The seat we're gonna have to take a few parts off. So the old seat that you see here has this metal frame that goes all the way across, loops over, and then goes all the way down and stuff. They did this up until about 2005. The newer style, and the seat's also a little bit wider, the cushion is. The newer style is slightly in, and it's plastic from here to here. Let's go ahead and get the rest of this all pulled off. I believe that was 1/2 inch. So let me grab the 1/2 inch here. So there's a nut that goes all the way in the back. Same thing up here. And these should come out like so. I'm trying to retain as much of this hardware as possible because even though I don't believe I'm going to end up having to use any of it, I just want to hold on to it just in case. So now I got to do the same thing where this other seat mounted that's broken. Then pull this guy out. Set this aside. So now, I believe all of this should come right off. All right. So now that we have a clean slate, let's go ahead and open up our package for our new seat arrangement, which is this guy here. And this actually took like 3 months to get from when I ordered it. It came from China, of course. And I think, if I remember correctly, it was like 450 bucks, 480 bucks, right around there. So the only reason why this one was on back order is because I wanted it in black. They had other colors, but I wanted to change the seats up to black. Now, when you open these, you need to be careful. I think it's that one that has the seat cushion in it. This one does not, from what I understand. I believe this is just strictly the frame. So, but I'm still going to be careful. On this one, I'll show you all the links of my Amazon stuff, but this is DS82-2000. This is actually for an 82 up to 2000 for this one. So finally got everything unpacked, got all the hardware out of this box, tried to lay them out as best as I could. Shows like a 1 on there, it's very hard to see. And then 2 right there, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't know what that is. Probably not 10 because I see 10 right here, 11, and then these are the ones that are really hard to see, and honestly, I don't know. So it's just a process of elimination on those. But got all the hardware out. This is what they show in terms of hardware. And for the most part, that is what I'm seeing so far. So, and then here is all the hardware total. I did not go through all of that. I just hope and assume that everything is there. And I'll find out as a process of elimination when I start to hook things up. Okay, so now to start. So my club car does not have the roof rack. Already took the seats out. On these 96s, it actually had a little basket and stuff in the back. This one has been changed at some point in time with that rear seat. So that's an aftermarket thing. So it says to remove all of that. So since I already did that, now it says remove the rear bumper and access engine cover. So I don't have a rear bumper on this thing, probably because it was removed when they put the rear seat whatever that rear seat kit was on there. So I don't have to worry about the rear bumper, but I will need to remove the engine access cover. So let's go ahead and do that. So on this, it's just these 2 screws. I wouldn't exactly call this a rear engine cover because you can access the engine right there. This is more for like the converter and such. And as you can see right here. So I'll set this panel aside. So this here is your starter, which is your starter belt, your converter, front and rear, and then your transmission essentially right here for this thing. So, all right, so now that we remove that, it says attach seat back bracket to cart using Z bracket as indicated using hardware 1. I'm assuming that's hardware number 1, and it looks like the brackets are these guys here. Now, there's a seat back bracket, which is what this is. And then they also say there's a Z bracket, which, looking at the picture here, it looks like this guy. Now I believe the slot, and then this slot, so you can move it forward and backward a little bit. So there's a little bit of movement. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up this bag. And this looks like it might be 1/2 inch. Let me check. Okay, so it's 1/2 inch. And then looks like washer, the nut. Sometimes what you got to do is just lay out, see what your hardware is, how many of your common bolts, how many your nut or washers and stuff. So 246, 246, 246, and then 3, 6. Okay. So this, we have a metal piece there. Okay, so, and then that will stick out. So this will stick out like so. We have a washer, and then we have a bolt. So this. Okay, so that's on there pretty good. Let's do that same thing on the other side. So it goes, at least according to the instructions, bolt washer, and then nut. And these are going through the body and into the frame. Back in here, I'll grab my flashlight and I'll kind of show you. So you can see there's that aluminum piece of the frame. Let me grab my tool. Now, I'll probably have to loosen this up a little bit to bend them in and out, but for now, that is how I'm gonna have them. So I was looking through this and stuff. So this is, of course, for your seats back here and here. And I, after going, kind of looking this over and stuff, I do believe, because it doesn't make any sense, these are the correct lengths and stuff, and this just doesn't sit here out in the open like that. I know that it doesn't do that. There is a hole here and there's a hole here, and it would make sense that you pull this off to then gain access in here to put the bolts in and all that kind of stuff. Now, if I use my mirror here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll clean up my smudge marks on my mirror here. If you look under here, you can see that there's aluminum here, then there's that hole which goes up to here. So, same thing on the other side. So I believe that these get pulled back and then secured down in there with this Z bracket is what they're calling it. And so this goes on like so, just like that. So the thing is since this thing has been kind of used and abused, the body is slightly askewed this way, so I just kind of have to work it a little bit, or the frame is slightly, this thing it's been used, let's just say that. We've done all kinds of crazy things with this way back then. So, all right, so they say bolts through this, then through the Z bracket, and then through there. So I gotta pull this back and try push this back, lift this up like that, hold that there, and of course I dropped the nut. Got that one started. Now I just need to do the same thing on this other side. Same gig. Just like that. Of course I dropped it again. Get that started. Now, let's go ahead and get it snugged up. Now, I'm gonna kind of leave it loose because these are gonna have to move. So I'm gonna leave it loose enough that I can move. And then I'll have to go back and retighten. Same gig on this, loose enough so I can move it a little bit. I can always retighten it, so I just have to remember that I got to retighten that. The problem is when you put too many things, if I snug that up all the way, when I go to put some of this other stuff together, this may have to slide out, may have to slide in, and I don't know yet until I get enough on here. So now it says I'm going to go ahead and put this cover back on. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'm hoping I can still access it a little easier. I think it's mainly just to get it installed. and then you should be able to probably reach in on the other side and snug it up. So for now, I'm going to put this cover on, snug it nice and tight, just in case I'm not able to access this again to pull it off. All right, so after we put the engine cover back on, now we got to attach the vertical support and foot plate to mounting location where the rear bumper was removed using hardware number 2. Vertical supports are directional slotted holes on top. Okay, so we are looking at, looks like this piece here. So I'm going to move this over here, and it looks like these may be the vertical supports. See, that's the downside. It's just some of these instructions are just kind of horrible. Okay, so it is the vertical supports, because if you go back to this page here, you can confirm that this is the vertical supports. And then I'm only assuming the foot plate. This does look like the foot plate. Yeah, so this is the foot plate. And then hardware number 2, which is this bag here. All right, so let's get this in place. Now, I see they have this little piece here. It could be done this way, it could be done this way. I just need to know if this goes on the inside or the outside or whatnot. So, looking at these pictures here, it's very hard to tell, but it looks like it's on the outside. And then I don't see that over here, so I believe those go on the outside. So let's do that. And then it looks like that all goes through washer, so it goes bolt, washer, washer, nut. So this is our hardware. So we have 2 bolts. We have 2 lock washers, 4 washers, and 2 nuts. So I'm going to put the lock washer underneath. So I'm going to go bolt, washer, washer, lock washer, nut. So I'm going to set it up just like that. And it goes through, it goes like this, down, and then this sits on top. Thank you, kid. Same gig over here. So that's 9/16, I believe. Just gonna get it kind of snug. I'm not gonna really tighten these down because there's slots in this, and so it's designed to kind of move around until you get everything in place. So we are gonna have to go back and torque everything down. Okay, so we got that installed here. Now let's move on to the next page. So it goes to the seat frame. This is where things are going to start to tie together. So it says right here, attach seat bottom frame to vertical support and to Z bracket using hardware number 3. So let's go ahead and grab our seat frame and then grab our hardware 3. So this is our hardware 3. And then our seat frame, which looks like this guy here. We've got to lay these out again. So we have a total of 4 bolts, 4 nylon nuts, and a total of 8 washers. So this tells me it's a double washer on each, so 1 on each side, and the nylon nut. All right, so we're going to kind of loosely put everything on. I can already see where this is going to get interesting. This is what I was talking about in regards to needing everything loose, because if you look here, this isn't all the way back, and this one forward some. So we're going to have to move things around a little bit. So bolt nut, or I mean bolt washer, and then washer nuts. And then how I also know that this here goes out that way, because if it didn't, it would it wouldn't allow this piece to rest flush against here, this piece, and so it needs to. So that's how I also know that that's in the right direction. I don't know if I explained that properly, but if you can see here with this angle here, if it was facing this direction, it wouldn't allow me to stick that nut in there. Okay, so then we'll get our nut on here. All right, so everything is loose. Okay, so now I can angle these a little bit, get these exactly where we want them, and that looks good so far. Looks like this is seating just like where it should be. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten these up all the way. And I'm looking up here, seeing if it goes flush. So when I pull this back and then tighten those will be nice and flush. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these up first. And those were, I think, 9/16. So that one kind of spun on me a little bit, which I'm going to have to loosen up. Go. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and get these flush like that. So I'm going to get these snugged up flush, and then we'll make our adjustments up there for the last piece, which is a 7/16. Okay, so that's nice and flush against there. I'm going to do the same thing over here, and you can see on top here, see how it moves in and out. So So I got to get close enough, and then I can pull this back and kind of hold this in position. There we go. So that's tucked in there like it should be. Now we got to make adjustments for this. So let me grab a rubber mallet. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to find the place where it kind of relaxes the most. And it looks like right here is good. And then what I'm going to do is I want this flush against this. So I'm going to pull it back a little bit like that. And then I'm going to snug it up. We'll get this close. And the same thing over here. So that's all nice and tight. So we do want to make sure these are now nice and tight. So the best way to do that is actually pull this cover back off. That's why sometimes these instructions aren't exactly the best. Okay, so now I think that was 1/2 inch, if I remember correctly. Yep. So let's get that nice and tight. And then I'm just going to make sure that these are all nice and tight now that I know all of that's good. There we go. Cool. So that's nice and solid. Yeah, that's really nice and solid. Way better than how it was before. The problem with the design before is it was not tied in over here, so much was moving around. And I don't know if it was just some custom thing. I don't know. I could not find whatever that kit was that was installed on here. Of course, this was back in 1996. Okay, so now that we got that on, it says attach the 2 clamps to the plastic seat bottom from hardware number 4. Okay, so the 2 clamps for the plastic seat bottom, which I believe is this guy. Plastic seat bottom, and it looks like I don't think it's this one. I think it's the other one. And the reason why I don't think it's that one is because if you look, there's no curvature here or curvature there. And right here is angled. And so that wouldn't fit in there. So I believe it is this piece. And it says attached to the 2 plastic clamps. 2 clamps to plastic seat bottom from hardware number 4. So this is hardware number 4. So what I'm noticing, what I'm looking at is, see how there's a little indent right here? Nothing right here. and then this little cutout here and that little cutout here. I'm trying to find things like that. So I do see a little cutout here, which is right here, not up here. So that tells me that this is probably like this. See, it's really hard to see, but I believe that's what this is. And then the little cutout here. So it is saying the two clamps to the seat bottom for hardware 4, which is this here. It's hardware 4. So we have 2 middle bits like that and 2 screws. Now, what it looks like, and see, this is the other thing, this is why I'm not a fan of these instructions, is one, does it go this way? Because it's at an angle, or does it go this way? Or does it go, yeah. And then do I put the screw in here? Over here, over here, which one? So that's when sometimes you kind of have to move up to the next, flip over the seat bottom and using clamps to clamp the seat bottom to the front edge of the seat. Front means the front of the cart. Okay, so they're saying that basically flip over the seat bottom and use the clamps to clamp the seat. Okay, so if I had to make a guess, all right, now that makes more sense. So if I had to make a guess, it's not going to be like this, of course, because it's going to be pointing into here. It's going to dig down. It's not going to clamp in the metal. The metal bit that I think this is clamping on, if you look over here, this angle iron here, I believe it's clamping in just underneath this lip. So this metal piece, if I flip it over like it should be, goes in like this. So it goes just underneath, barely. All right, so I need to, and to answer my question on which hole, I believe it's this one over here, where it is all the way over to this hole here, and this metal piece is slid all the way over. The reason why I think that is because if you notice that if I have it all the way slid over, I can put that in there. If I move it over one, it doesn't really make a lot of sense because this thing could eventually turn on you. And at least this kind of holds it a little bit. Okay, and then do the same thing on this side. Kind of surprised I don't use 2 bolt holes. So I'm trying to get it pretty tight by hand. Okay, so now let's flip it over. And so if you notice, see how they're kind of sticking out a little bit? It's to get underneath there. So I believe just like that. So now if I hold this back and I try to lift up underneath, it holds it. So that's exactly how it goes. All right, on to the next part. So we're now on we just did 8 by flipping it over and installing it. Now we're going to do 9. It says attach rear edge of seat bottom to seat bottom steel frame by existing manual holes using hardware number 5. 2 flat washers in the hardware bag are used at 2 corners as indicated. The last bolt goes to the middle of front edge. Okay, and they make things so damn small you can hardly see anything. So we're going to play this by braille. Okay, so let's see here. What are we doing here? Attach rear edge of seat bottom to the seat bottom steel frame by existing mounting holes using hardware number 5. So hardware number 5 are these, I believe. Yeah, this one. And then if I look at this bag, I believe that's a 5. That's kind of hard to, yeah. Okay, so we have 4 bolts, which is kind of like what we did before with the screw-like thing, and then 2 big washers. Now, Oh, I think I see what they're doing. So if we pull this out, flip this over, we have one hole, one here, or so 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4, and then 2 washers, one here, one here. And what that's doing is doing basically exactly this, but when you tighten it down, it's clamping it to lock it in place so you can't lift it up. So that's what they're doing. And then I'm assuming they have holes in the frame, which I'm seeing right here, here, here. So there's a hole here and it's 2 metals. So that's gonna hold it down, and then these 2 outer ones, which are over here with the washers, are gonna hold it down too. All right, so let's slide this back in. We're gonna lock it down. That's what I mean by it's just like a process of elimination, because you get to a point where the instructions are good to a point, and then you'll just lose your mind if you just don't start playing around. So let me grab a shorter screwdriver, because the hole back here, trying to stick something long under there, it's going to be kind of a pain, I think. So I'm going to reach in, I'm going to find there we go. So what you do, just get it started, then do the same thing with these other ones. There's going to be a hole somewhere around here. And if you have to, kind of lift it up a little and just get it started. Only get things started. And then we get corner ones. Trying to blind myself with the flashlight. So it goes like this with bolt washer. And then in this corner, you can see, if you look under here, what it's doing. They're capturing this part of the metal here, like that. And then the same thing on the opposite side. Only downside I can see is that these probably will work themselves out or loose. So I'm gonna have to check these, and if they do come loose, I'm gonna need to put either some kind of Loctite, or I need to use some spring washers. All right, so we'll get these all tight. Now that I got all of them in. So now that is nice and secure. All right, so we are done with number 9. Now we move on to 10. It says attach tab to flip seat using hardware number 6. So this is the flip seat using hardware number 6. 5 is done. This is 6. 1, I believe it's 6. Could be 9, but I believe it's, wait. Yeah, I believe it's 6, because they only show a screw and a nut. And if I have to, I can go over here, on here, number 6, and 6/14s, number 2, or 2 of those. So there's just 2 of those. Okay, so pull those out, and then attach tab. I believe this is tab. And one way I can find out, let's go back over here. Do they have something called tab? Yes, they do. And that, I believe, is tab. Okay, so we attach tab onto here. And so again, this is what I'm getting at. If you look at the picture, how do you know if it's this way or this way? Now, one way you can tell is just moving on to the next picture, and it looks like if I put this in the same orientation, it looks like it goes up, like this. So, like that. Okay, now the question is, which direction do they want the hardware? I'm going to assume clean side, meaning it goes like this, where it's fairly clean looking. And I need to grab the appropriate socket. So screw through there, and this is 10. And then put that through like so. Make sure it's going in the right direction. So I'm just gonna get it kind of snug, just so I can move it, pivot it a little bit until I get the last one on. It's just snug enough, just so it's not flopping around on me while I'm making the adjustment. And I'm gonna just make sure this looks nice and even. And then what I do is I get it where it's just on there, and then just get it a little, you know, don't go like crazy torque, but just, you know, enough. All right, so now that we have that on, what's next on our instructions? It says attach flip seat to seat frame / seat bottom assembly using hardware number 7. A nylon spacer is used between 2 parts. Detailed pictures are seen from top of this connection. Okay, nylon spacers. I am assuming that's what this bag is. It looks like it has some caps. And I see what looks like a spacer, another spacer. These are more caps. See, and this bag's not notated with any numbers per se. So let's get these little caps back in here. We'll figure out where those go later. But I believe these are the nylon spacers. Okay, so now I'm assuming there's an extra one there, but I don't know yet. So again, what I usually like to do is lay out the hardware, get an idea. This is number 7. So I got 2 bolts, 2 nuts, 4 washers. So that tells me usually it's a double washer and installed just like so. I'm assuming we have an extra nylon spacer just in case you break one. They look like they go in here. And if you notice, this looks slightly bent and this is straight. Now, when this happens, I'll show you what you can do to fix that. It just kind of sucks. You just got to be careful when you're trying to straighten some of the stuff out, because you can chip the paint. Now, what I like to do is take a crescent wrench, slip it over, slide it, get it closed off so it's like that, you know, over the metal, and then get it as far close to where it starts to bend. I'm going to get a larger one. Like so, and then gently pull back, and you can usually straighten it out without damaging it. See, now that's nice and straight. And stuff happens. I mean, this was shipped from China, apparently. You have this little inner part here. That seats just in there like that. Doesn't go in like this, goes in like this to help kind of center it. And then same thing over here. If I put this, try to put it through the hole, it won't go through that hole. So it's got to be through here to help center it and hold it. So it's going to go. Let me see. So it looks like this right here. I'm gonna lay this out. So bolt, washer, then it'll go nylon nut like this, and then a washer, and then a nylon nut. I'm sorry, this was a nylon spacer. So, like that. Let me grab this hardware, bring it up here. It's gonna have to hold it. Same thing with this one. So that tells me this extra spacer is probably for something else, or it's just extra. Okay, so what I recommend is put the nylon spacer in on each side, just like this. See, on each side. Then stick it in between, like so. Reason being is, if you didn't do that, good luck trying to get it in place over there. That goes in like that with the washer and the nut. Of course, that's kind of a pain in the butt. If you got small hands like my friend Caden here, makes it a little easier. Otherwise, you're gonna need a wrench. There you go, Caden. I'll let you get that guy on there. And that looks like it's 1/2 inch. Thank you, Caden. Oops, no, 7/16. Here's our 1/2 inch, and it's the socket half. Now on this, I would recommend torquing it over by hand. I would not use your little Ugga-Duggas, because you'll probably break the little nylon spacer. So what I'm going to do is put it on, go like that. And I'm just going to make sure that we're just getting through the nylon part. We're going to do the same thing on this side. So see right there, the bolt's coming through. You need it to come out just at least through that nylon part. There we go. So that's retained properly. And that folds up like so. That's nice. Okay, so now on to the next step. So we did that. Attach the seat cushion to flip seat using hardware number 8. So, hardware number 8, thank you. This is our hardware number 8. And now to our seat cushion. Our seat cushions are in this box here. I did not open this box yet. It says, do not use a blade, because more than likely your seat cushion's just underneath this. Yep, just like so. So all I was doing is just taking a screwdriver and end and just poking the tape. According to our instructions, it says attach the seat cushion to flip seat using hardware 8. So now the question is, you know what? Now the question is which orientation does it go? What's interesting is I don't see anything here. So let's see something. Is it this guy? Okay, so I see holes through here. So this must, see, their pictures aren't exactly the best. So what you can do, okay, so this looks like goes up here. So that goes in the back. And then this looks like it goes back here. But how does it attach? And it says attach using hardware 8. So hardware, aha, okay. So hardware 8 uses, looks like wood screws. So here's bag 8, and here we have these screws. These are self-tappers for wood. And we have 1, 2, 5 of them. So we have one extra possibly. Okay, so I'm gonna move this seat cushion off to the side. Now, the question is, this piece, does that go here or which direction does it go? Now, is there any indicator on here? I think
the other way. But then you can pull the lip to hold it.
So you think it goes this way?
Yeah, then you can grab the strap.
Oh, so you can pull the strap and or that. And then if you look at it, how the seat cushion is made, yeah, it looks like it's tapered slightly downward. And then it's more in the front. So yeah, that would make sense because you would have more cushion up here, I would think. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that would make sense. 5 screws. So I think I have an idea of how I'm gonna do this. So I lined it up nicely on the top here, nice and clean. And there's a little space along here, which I think is to help keep the cushion, get the cushion a little bit of space right here. So when you put it down, it's nice and flat. So I'm gonna try, I don't like doing it like this, but I'm gonna try. I have my screw on there, my drill, and I'm gonna start and do the center first and keep my body against this. The reason why I did that because then I can pivot it. If you look now, see on the top here, I can rotate it left and right a little bit. And I didn't go tight. I went enough that I believe I got it in, and then I'll tighten it up by hand because it's just wood and I can't feel or see how far I am. So I'm gonna put my body against this. That's where I want it. Put my body, I'm still holding this, I'm pinching it. Put my body against this here. And now, gently rest it. I'm gonna hold my hand up under here. The same thing. And this one I'm gonna actually, I don't like how that one went in. Want it more at an angle. And then finish it off with the screwdriver. There we go. So now that we got the seat cushion installed, we do, the next thing is wants us to attach the arm tube to seat assembly using the short bolts from hardware 9. So hardware 9 is this, and then our what we have in hardware 9 is we have some short bolts, some long bolts. It looks like these are all the same thread. And then our washers. So I'm gonna lay them out, 4, 4, 4. So, yep, so they're double washers, and we have a total of 4 there. Cool, so that's how that works. All right, so now our armrests that are these 2 pieces. And it looks like these pieces here, and using triangle bracket when attaching to foot plate using long bolts from hardware 9. So the long bolts are in this, and then short bolts up above in the other parts. And it looks like I can see this one looks just like this over here. And so that means that this goes in like so. And then that means on this side goes in like that. So set our hardware, and then, okay, so we got long bolt washer, long bolt washer, short bolt washer. Do that for all of these. This, so it looks like they go in through here, and for this part it looks like it goes bolt washer and then out, and then washer, and then nuts. And then on this lower one, leave, yeah, so bolt washer goes through all the way through, and then nut, or I mean washer and then nut. And then the short bolt up here looks like it goes through. This is why you want to keep everything loose. And then down through there, and then this is where it gets a little bit of a pain, because you gotta kind of back the bolt, or the bolt out, and then try to turn it as you get in there. Okay, so now I can tighten all this up. And I believe it's all 1/2 inch. I want to do it pretty much by hand, because the problem is I want to go until I just see the nut go through that nylon. And I'll show you up here what I'm talking about, like I was talking about earlier. See, the bolt's not hitting this nylon in here, so it's not going to retain it. So I want to get it tight until I see that, like that. The reason why I don't want to go any more, because the more I tighten this, the more I'm going to deform this box. There's no sleeve in here, so I can keep pinching this and I'll collapse that. And you can see that I'm barely indenting it. So these bolts are just barely long enough. So that's why I'm doing it all by hand, because I want to make sure there we go. That is retained. And now we do the same thing on the other side. So, whoops. Looks like I have it go through this way and then out. Okay, now we'll get the long bolt in this bracket. Thing is, you can't really see. I think it actually goes like that, maybe. Okay, this thing's moving on me. It's a little frustrating. So I'm gonna put this bolt through here first to help kind of reduce that. And on this one, you can't just push the bolt all the way through. You got to get the nut in there and hold it with your finger and then start twisting it. All right, so back to this. So the problem I was having was, I don't know if it's like that or like that, because it didn't seem like things were lining up. Oh, it looks like this one's going to be kind of a pain. Because everything's all black, it's hard to see everything. This just tweaked a little bit. It's like it's pulling up a little bit, and this needs to get pulled down. It was kind of a pain. So now I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this thing up. Doing like we did before. Perfect. All right, so far it's pretty darn sturdy. Attach seat cushion and seat back bracket using hardware in bag 10, which is this bag. So again, what we do is look at what we got. We have 4 bolts and 4 nuts, or washers. So we take our bolts. I think this is it 10? No. I think this one's 7/16. Yep, okay. So we take our 4 bolts, put the washers on them, and then we hold our seat cushion up, put it through here, and now they're all starting nicely. Okay, so this one, yep, we're good. So these are all 7/16. So let me grab a 7/16 speed wrench. Should be this guy here. Now, with these, it's just going into basically threaded inserts that are in wood. So don't crank on them like crazy. I noticed my speed wrench isn't working right. There's something not right with it. So let me grab a socket. So you just want to get them nice and snug. Now over time, this stuff is probably going to go loose. And what I'm probably going to have to do is, if I find that happening, again, either use Loctite or put some lock washers on there to help keep them from rattling loose over time. Okay, now that once I get snug, I'm just gonna go a little turn like that and call it good, because you'll pull them right out, you'll break them, you'll mess them up. Okay, so I reorganized things real quick and took a quick break. And so those essentially I don't need. That those 2 upper bars, or 4 if you have the roof piece and I don't. And then that long bar is if you want to put the original seats back on, where the original ones on the older 2000 and half and under are 2 individual seat cushions, and I got it where it's the whole one piece. The reason why I did that is because I don't like this individual piece because it doesn't support it, and I think that's partly why so many things broke, even though that actually has a nice bar on it on this kit. So that helps fix that issue. So we are going to install this, and especially this handle rack, and the reason being is that this hitch thing that I kind of want to install goes on just like that with this on there. Now I can then install this on, and it's basically a handle. So we're going to go ahead and install this, and to install this, but real quick, in regards to the front seat, they basically state go ahead and install that seat and stuff. That's what these 2 spacers are for the newer style. We'll go to that after we finish this part. So we're kind of doing things just slightly out of order, and that's because I want to show you the new stuff that I got to upgrade the seat, because the older models are different. So anyway, to continue on here, we need to install this thing. This, they call it, let's see, the grab bar mounting bracket. And we need to use hardware number 13, hardware number 12, which is this, goes for the seats, cushion stuff, and this I believe is 13. It's really hard to see it, but it looks like 13. So we need that hardware to install this stuff. So let's go ahead and lay this out and see what we got here. Excuse me. So we have 4 of those bolts. 6 of those bolts. They do look like they're all the same thread or diameter. And then I always like to arrange things because it kind of gives me an idea of what I'm looking at. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. So double washers. And that looks like that's how it's supposed to be. So I am going to assume that the shorter ones go here, which that's what it looks like. These longer ones and the short ones go back here too. The longer ones look like they go through this whole piece like this. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to put a washer on all of these first to get them started. Okay, so we know, we'll set that there. We'll set this here. So we need to get this mounted on here first. And this goes on like so. And let me let this hang down a little bit. We'll get the washer and then the nut just on there. Do the same thing for this other side. That way you can kind of have it semi self-supported for a second. And then we lift this up. We'll slide it back as far as possible. bolt with the washer, and then the washer, and then the nut. And the same thing back here on the other opposite side. Okay, now with this, I can use the little mini Ugga. You just gotta watch when you do it, because you really don't want to pinch this. So what I'm getting at is by looking at this piece of metal here, when I have this bolt going through here, there's no spacer in there. So the tighter I get this, I'm gonna collapse this wall and it's gonna go in. So you just wanna get it so it's snug. And there's nylon nuts on there, so they'll kind of lock it down. Okay, so it's a 1/2 inch. Keep this pushed back so you can slide this forward or back. There's another slot, you can slide it even forward even more. I want it in as far as possible, less leverage, especially when I have this thing on there. So it kind of sticks out a little bit. So I might change this up, but for now, I'm gonna install it how they show it. Okay, so this is pushed back. So I'm going until it's snug and then I'm stopping and I can see it in there. Okay, so that is mounted on there. Now we'll get our long bolt. So it looks like the short bolt is probably this one here. Then a long bolt here. Whoops, that's a short one. Long bolt here. Then we go washer and the nut. And then on this, we're gonna run this down. And then this is gonna be a long bolt, then washer, and then nut. And all of this just right now hand tight. And long bolt here, washer, and then nut. And then the short bolt, then washer, nut. And then we just repeat it on this side. Same gig. Get these. I'm gonna hold this, let's see. So if you put weight on this, I'm gonna push it down because they're gonna just come loose anyway. So you might as well get the lash out. I'm just going until I see it get snug. Just like so. There we go. All right, so now that we got all that done, technically, according to the instructions, we are technically done. What they're showing here is if we put these bars up, the final look should look like this. You know, it depends on which roof rack or the roof you have. If it's a newer style, this is how they should mount. If it's the older style, this is how it should mount. And then on here, we just did all of this. Now we need to install the seat back. So we're just going back a step. With the seat back, if you're using the original ones, you put that bracket in there and you can take the two pieces. But we have newer seats that we're gonna install, and they're in black to match. And so we're gonna use this bracket, and this is for the mid 2000s and up. So now to install this, you would need bag number 12, which is this bag, and it says there are 3 different lengths. So it just depends on, I guess, your styling and your setup. So let's grab our new seat cushion. So our new seat cushion, I had to get a new seat back cover, and that's this part here, which is kind of spendy. So if you can get some of the stuff used, you're kind of in a better position. Unfortunately, I could not. I had to get it new. And this is what the newer styles are. So our new seat cushions, this is for the seat back. So on these new ones, if you buy them new, this is what they look like. But the problem is they don't leave things exposed like this. So I knew I was missing a piece. And when I looked up the parts diagram and stuff, it was missing this whole piece. This piece goes in the back. And so what this does is it helps kind of protect all that wood and the stitching, so it's not exposed. And then that's how that should look. The bolts that come with this kit is quarter standard thread pitch. Well, they start to grab, but then they stop pretty quick. So then I was thinking, okay, well, is there any other hardware that came in that box? And we found some bolts. And these are actually quarter fine thread, and I can turn these in just like they should be. So the problem is the hardware store is currently closed, so I am not able to continue putting this seat cushion on to this frame at this moment in time. So we're gonna have to pause on this part. So I'm just gonna set the seat cushion up there, and these bolts and spacers, I'll just set them in here, and we'll get the correct ones tomorrow. So we got to continue on. And so the next part, so outside of that, this is all done. This is, I'm fine with it for now, but I think this part's going to change. I might actually take this thing off. I'm not exactly, I think this is just going to be an issue. I really wouldn't put much weight on this by any means, because it's all just pivoting. There's just, well, it's sticking way out. It really should be tucked way in. So I'm gonna probably make some modifications. I'll probably have this where it tucks way in, and then this hole here is only exposed about right there, so you can put a little more weight on that, or at least tow something with it that's very light, that you're not having to worry about. But for now, I'm gonna leave this on here. But let's move on to the lower seat cushion. So I bought the new seat cushions. I already pulled out the upper part. Let me pull out this lower one, and it's this guy here. And if you notice, these have different openings here. And sits pretty nice, but if you notice there's a large gap here. So with the new seat cushions, you actually need the armrest. And in this box here, I got the new armrest. So that seat cushion came with new bolts. They go on like this and like that. And I believe, yeah, I believe it goes on like that. And if you notice, there's 2 holes here, 2 holes here, which I think is where the hinges connect. Yeah, right around there. Yeah, okay. So I think we have a rough idea how this is supposed to go. So if I put this up like so, they're going to be about there. Okay, so with the hardware that the seat cushions came with, this is what we have. We have, these are also what I had to order. This is a little hinge kit. Now, this is if I have to replace that, which it doesn't look like it. I should be able to put these on. And I believe they go on just like that. So, since they supplied me with these bolts, I'm willing to bet that they are fine thread. Yep. So we'll get these on. Okay, so I got snug. Snug, right like that. Do the same thing on the other side. So do a washer with the bolt. And of course this bracket doesn't go in, but it goes up. That's snug there. Okay, so now we got snug. Don't go more than that, because you'll mess those up. You'll mess these little inserts up. All right, so let's get these on. So to do that, grab, we need a total of 8 of these bolts with these washers. Make sure you get them all in, but loose. Just gonna have to kind of move things a little bit. There we go. Now I'm going to get it all kind of snugged up by hand. And if these start coming loose on me, what I'll do is I'll pull them out and I'll put a spring washer on there, or what also known as a lock washer, just to help keep them from coming loose. Okay, so once I get it snug, just go a little turn like so. Just like that. Now we're going to go ahead and do the other side. just like that. All right, so to get the seat on, should be able to put it in at an angle. Get it in that latch. Get it in like so. And look at that. We'll get this upper seat cushion installed when we get the hardware. We're done with this hardware here, so I can put this in this little box here for now. So now we are left with our ignition switch, and our headlights. So those are the last pieces that we're installing on this. So now we are going to go ahead and do these headlights. So I got a new headlight kit. It says basic light kit for CC DS. This is a DS model. So let's see what we got here. So we have installation instructions. It says, of course, to turn it off. So what we got here, Club Car DS tail light. Tail lights are good on this thing, so, but then again, these are all LEDs, so they're nicer. DS tail light. Oh, driver side, passenger. Okay, so these are templates for that. I'm gonna keep these in this bag. And then this is the templates for the headlights, I believe. It's pretty nice. I was curious how they were gonna do this. Okay, so driver's side. See, I love it when they do this. Left driver's side, because the problem is it left when you're sitting in it, or left when you're standing outside it, left or right. That's why, for me, I always indicate everything by driver's side or passenger side. It just avoids that confusion and stuff, because the problem is sometimes I've had customers go, oh, it's the left side. And then I find out, because generally speaking, when you're sitting in it, the left side, and then you have your right side. That's generally how it's supposed to be. But the problem is sometimes I'll have customers, they'll stand outside and they're looking at it and they go, oh yeah, it's the left side or the right side. And then it just gets things very confusing. Okay, so apparently these club cars back then, they did not have headlights. So the headlights are all technically an aftermarket thing. So this had headlights on here, they're all busted. I can't find, like, the whole housing part is just missing and everything. So I needed just to replace them. Now, what these headlights look like, they're all LED, and so that's what it's gonna look like. So it's basically, we're really transforming this thing. All right, so first step is, of course, they show this with a clean plate. There's nothing on there, meaning that this wasn't even cut out. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this a clean plate by removing this headlight assembly and then what's left of this one. And it looks like it's just a couple of flathead screws, so let me grab a flathead real quick. Now, I don't know. Yeah, this one seems like it's doing something. Maybe. I might. You know what? Since this is all busted up, and I see bits of something here, we'll go off of what we know on this. And it looks like, which I dropped, what little, so it looked like there was like a nut on the back side. Unfortunately, I dropped remainder of, but it looks like I can, or it feels like I can hold on to the, and they're plastic. I'll show you what I mean. So it's like a plastic nut and a plastic screw. And there it is. Okay, so actually that is not a plastic nut, but this is a plastic screw. And that's how this one was held in. And what hardware? The hardware is probably tucked, or not the hardware, but the rest of it's probably tucked back there. Okay, so now on here, let's see if I can hold that screw or the nut. Yep, now it's coming out. So I can feel the screw move, and it's like bouncing back. So it's just not allowing it to go through. So unfortunately, let's see if I can get like a pair of dikes in there and try to snip that. Since I don't care about this housing, I just don't want to booger up the body any more than it is. There we go. Did it. Sometimes you can't always get it off the way it should come off. Yeah. So this is kind of the old light that was on there. We're going to have LEDs. I'm going to leave this part of the harness in here because there is some wiring in here for the old lights. I'm probably going to do completely away with that, but I'm going to leave that hanging there just so I can deal with it a little bit later. And yes, this is definitely an aftermarket getup. All right, so the template. What do we have here? It says, cut out the headlight, place the template on the cowl using the body lines for the light. Okay, so body line, this lines up with the body line of the front cowl. Oh, okay, now I see it. So this body line right here is what this line is following. So I need to cut this out so I can place it on here. So let me grab some scissors. This lines up with the edges of the front cowl. So edges and then body line. Okay, so I need to cut this inner piece out. Okay. So, it says body line like so. This up here, body line. Okay, so definitely don't want to go lower than that. Now the question though, because we've only got one shot of this, so once we cut it, it's cut. So I see we have kind of a gap through here. So what I'm actually kind of curious on is if I take this off. So opening, so if this is like this, so you always measure, like check everything out, because once you cut, I mean, it's done, you cut. So you just make sure everything is exactly the way you want it before you cut, because You can't add, I mean, you could add material, I guess, but that's gonna suck. It's just gonna take a lot of work. Okay, so this template's pretty spot on. What I'm noticing is, so down here, I need to make sure that this lip, so this lip here definitely needs to go under. So it looks like if I press that in, yeah, we're good. Sorry, I'm kind of thinking here just to make absolutely sure. So it looks like, I think, body line here, it's extremely important. And then this up here. So that, I think, is pretty solid. And what I'm trying to do is when I put this on here, I'm trying not to distress this, meaning that I move this up and down. I'm trying to follow exactly what it is. And if I look at this piece of paper over here, you can see that it does curve up and out a little bit. So that is normal. That's kind of how that's supposed to go. I know down here, let me grab a little bit more tape. Now, granted, it doesn't have to be perfect, these cuts and stuff. I mean, technically speaking, because it is getting all masked with this once you get this installed. Now, I just want to make sure everything is good before I cut and such. We're good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture of where I have this so I can match it on the other side. So when I'm following my marker down, I'm making sure I don't pull my paper. So I think we got everything on there. Pull our template off. Let's go ahead and start trimming our plastic. Now, this isn't exactly what you're supposed to use it for, but I believe this will work for what I want to do. So basically I'm using a metal cutoff wheel. This is just plastic. It's not a big deal. When I get in this area, I'll just kind of clean it up a little bit. This line here, I'm gonna leave some, or pretty much leaving, except right here, I'm gonna clean up and then I'm gonna cut through here. So let's begin. Okay, so how I'm kind of doing this is basically going across until it starts to turn. Then I stopped, then I went through, punched it down, stopped until it starts to turn. And then what I'm going to do is I'm cutting out where it's straight, and then I can cut up, and then I just clean that up with my angle grinder or cutoff wheel, and just go in here, just clean that up. It's pretty easy. So that's kind of what I'm doing. So then I'll go up here and I'll cut this little piece off. And same thing down here. Clean this up. let's get this cleaned out. Now granted, it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, I'm kind of a perfectionist, unfortunately. It's actually working really well. Okay, so that looks really good. Now we got to do this other side. It's hot and kind of gooey. I think it's like a rubber, some kind of rubber, plastic rubber. There we go. All right, let's see how that light fits now. Look at that. Fits nicely. Cool. Sweet. Okay, so basically, supply the screws. And it looks like they're all the same. They're self-tappers. And there's a total of 4. And the thing is you don't want to like get them, you know, super tight, just snug. But I'm gonna start them with my drill, and then I'm gonna finish them off by hand, so I make sure that they're not over torqued. So making sure it's exactly in place. Making sure that's nice and up and flush. That one's in. It's kind of hard because the screws aren't holding in there nicely. So I want to make sure. Just trying to do it as nice and clean as possible. Probably going overboard for what most people would do. There we go. And now let's get the last 4 in. Or the last 2, I should say. There we go. So now, just gonna snug it by hand, which is pretty much all the way there. Look at that. not bad at all. It actually turned out really good. So there's clearly a newer harness. I'm going to pull that little plastic off. New little harness that we're going to use. So we are going to pull out the old harness, or what is of it, and then we're going to go with the new stuff. But that actually turned out really good. So now I just got to do the same thing on that side. I already took a picture and I already know, but I will confirm that I have this curve close to this here, and then this body line I followed. So I'm just going to add a little tape there. And then when I'm holding this out, I'm just trying to make sure everything stays in place, that I'm not deforming this in any weird angle. So just kind of run my hand lightly across. Same gig over here. And on this, I'm not going to cut any lower, I don't believe, on that. And then once I get this all on here, okay, so what I'm going to do real quick, take a look at my phone and look at the body line. So the body line I had lined up right there, of course, and then right up here, this looks about the same as on the other side and everything. So in theory, it should all line up and be the same. Try not to push on the paper. I'm just going to follow that, hopefully, and then follow transition. So all I'm doing is holding the tape down for this template to make sure I get it all. I think we're good. All right, so let's pull this template off. And it basically looks the same as that one. And cut her out. Here we go. I had to cut it out there because we're going at a curve and I'm fighting against it. So okay. Okay, now. And yeah, you could drill a hole in there. This just as fast as I think. If not faster. Go over here. So now I just gotta cut this side out real quick, and then I think we'll be ready to put the light in, the assembly in. There we go. All right. So now I got that stuff all over me. Let's grab our other headlight. Stick that through like so. Nice, look at that. Okay, that helps. Okay, then this one, keep up and over. Really sucks that these screws are not sticking in there as well. There we go. Last screws in. And just to make sure, all I'm doing is just gonna snug by hand, like don't go much more. Okay, cool. And then we can take the little plastic off of there. So that's that one, and that one's that's on. So both of these are on now. Okay, so I'm hoping I don't have to cut out the other side. I'm hoping that the back side, since I already have lights on here, I can use the original holes, or the holes that someone cut out in the back. I'm hoping, because these lights look pretty much the same. So let's go to the back and go from there. I pulled the screws out, and so this thing has brake lights and running lights. I don't know about the new ones. So if I set this on there, it looks like I can use the same hole, and yeah, so that's cool. So I'm curious though if this thing has brake lights. I don't think it does. So let me take a quick peek, which is not a big deal. I don't have to have, yeah, so this is just an on and off switch, and it doesn't look like it has any type of brake switch. So not a big deal. I don't need to have brake lights. I can just have the thing on and off as necessary. So looks like I just disconnect this, and then I can pull the rest of the wires out at some other point later on. So this is earth ground right here. They grounded it, and I'm just gonna snip that wire since it's ground. There is no power going through that circuit. Even if it did, it would just pop my fuse, because this is fused, and then this I can just pull out along with right there. That's interesting. There's foam in there. Okay. Cool. So let's get this guy in. So I don't want to get in the same hole because the hole down here and the hole up here are pretty close. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to get this basically where I want it. And then I'm gonna run the screws, dang it, on the sides to hold it in place. So what I'm doing is I see the hole there and I see the hole up there. So technically, can I move it off to the side a little? Maybe this side. So the only thing I could do is just twist it in just a little bit to help avoid from hitting those same holes. And if I try to get it so it's straight up, I can twist it just a little bit to get it out of the way. I think I can make this work. Yeah, go ahead and press that there. Okay, hold it for a second. There we go. Now let's get these other screws in. So I gotta try to angle it a little bit. There we go. So I angle it just a little bit just so I don't get into that same hole because it's so close. Okay, so now just finger tight. Nice. So unfortunately these don't sit 100% flush, not a big deal. No one's gonna really notice that except for me. Cool, so now let's do the other side. So I'm kind of expecting to do the same on this side. Unfortunately I could reach in here. Get up top and hold that nut by hand. Now that I got the nuts out, I should be able to pull this back and disconnect that, and I'm going to cut the ground. And then these I will pull back through, but for now we're just getting the lights installed. So same gig on the other one. So go ahead and just put your finger there. Don't move it. And then keep it there once I get, till I get the other side on. Oops. That one is not where it needs to be. Oh, maybe it is. Okay, now I'll get these screws. And what I'm doing is getting it at an angle where I get as much plastic or whatever this material is as possible without going into or too close to the original. There we go. So that light's in. All right, so basically it just comes down to now installing the harness, pull out the old, and then the seat, and then the ignition switch, and then we will be done. So we'll get on that tomorrow morning. All right, so day 2, we're gonna continue. I still gotta go out and get the hardware for the rear part of the seats. We gotta finish up the electrical. So we're gonna go ahead and continue to that, and then I'll go out and get the hardware that's necessary. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this seat off. And what I'm gonna do before I start anything is, let me grab my flashlight here because things, I'm gonna turn this fan down. Make it a little easier to hear. Okay, so before we start anything, it's always a good idea to go ahead and disconnect the power. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and pull this positive line right here. And actually, I'm gonna start with the negative. So disconnect our ground here. And really, that's all we actually need to do is disconnect the circuit as a whole. Just make sure these wires don't end up touching ground by any means. Okay, so I just snug that up so we don't lose that. So this is the harness that this came with. And let's see, let's open this up. So we gotta have to figure out is how's this working? So sometimes instructions can be helpful and sometimes not so much. All right, so this right away looks like it's for the switch. And then our battery. That's exactly what it's for. Okay, so we are gonna need to gain access to this control panel right here, which is this dash. And so we are going to need to pop this out. Now, I am not 100% sure how to do that. So we'll find out here together. So it looks like there probably was a screw over here on both sides. I haven't had to pull this off in a very, very long time. Okay, so it looks like I was able to just pull it straight back. And it's a good thing we disconnected the battery because right here, there's 2 leads and it was touching this metal, just like I'm doing right now. And that would have definitely popped a fuse if there, as long as this thing's wired properly. Okay, so this is our lights, our old lights, which we are going to be disconnecting. And so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to reuse this hole for the new switch. I might have to drill it out. And then we are going to replace this ignition switch with new. So, because this one is messed up, let's see if I can get any more room to this. Doesn't really look like it. Okay, so let's take a quick look at our new ignition switch too while we have this open. So this is our new ignition switch. I'll set those pieces aside. This is what it looks like with a new key. And it looks like the wiring's all the same, except this thing has a long extension to it, which is interesting. I'm not exactly sure why. And it looks like it's just a housing. So let me grab a little flathead. Let's start with this ignition switch. Okay, so now what I always recommend doing before you start taking anything apart, just take a quick picture, just in case you accidentally disconnect a wire that you didn't mean to, and okay, so disconnected that, and on this one it has, this is the upper here, and it looks like this is just a spacer here. It looks like it could just pop that off, and so I should be able to wire all this up and then pop it back on, is for what it looks like. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's interesting. We are going to put a little crimp before we're going to fix this wire. This looks like it's a went to our lights. It's probably 12 volts. Let's go ahead and put a good crimp on that. Let me grab a crimp just to make sure this eyelet will fit over that, and it will. And what I did is I just folded this over, kind of twisted it, and I'm going to feed it in there like so. Now, it's always nice to have a good pair of crimpers. Now, on these, there's a tighter section there and a wider section there. The wider section is where the eyelet goes. I have it backwards, sorry. The tighter section, so the wider section is on this side where the open loop, and then the tighter one goes right there where it's kind of more closed. So now, I'll feed this through where it's just sticking out like so. And then with my other hand, since I'm right-handed, I'm going to go ahead and crimp this. Just like so. And now we can tug on it and it stays in place as it should. Okay. Always like to have proper connections and stuff. That way you're not chasing electrical gremlins when things aren't working right or kind of intermittent. Now, unfortunately, sometimes it's kind of hard to do with one hand. Just set that aside, especially since we have multiple. Okay. So what I try to do is try to get it all in there. Then I set that on there. Hopefully kind of, there we go. Okay, so now, since this was kind of a tight fitting, I'm gonna assume it's gonna be in the same position because this is keyed, it's flat here. So it's probably gonna be in the same position. So I wanna make sure these are rotated down and out of the way from this. And then get this nice and snug. Just trying to hold it in a proper position. There we go. Now you don't need to go crazy reefing on it. All right, so the next one, which is this guy here. Same gig, try to get it in a certain position. It's not going to interfere when we go put it back on. And then make sure it's snug. They do have like a little spring washer in there, in other words, a lock washer. So it will, you just need to get that flat. If you got it flat, that's tight enough. Okay, so then the next one, which is interesting, goes to that switch, and also it doesn't look like it has a proper crimp, which we will fix. So let me go grab another crimp. And before installing, again, just double check, make sure it's the right size, and it is. And then on here again, the wider part of the mouth, which is this side versus this side, and you can tell when you close this, it's more. And it's a little easier if you set these in ahead, just to kind of hold it. And then this is the most important part where it crimps that piece of the crimp. So pull this wire out, kind of twist it, and then I'm going to fold it over to bulk it up a little bit. It's kind of a crummy, but it works. There we go. Then we tug on it a little and we're good. So now I'll put the screwdriver in my pocket. So set the screw in there. And then it goes in this one. And now I'm just trying to keep it all the bulk on the inside still. Yeah, and that's nice and tight. And then to the last one here. Which is this guy. Okay. Screw this in. And I'm going to try to keep them all in the same direction. There we go. All right, so now I gotta so that's wired this up. Now, to be honest, on this golf cart here, it was modified for this ignition switch. Since this ignition switch, you could just stick anything in here, like so. That a long time ago, I did wire up this little switch here. So this switch had to be on before you can, and then you also had to turn this in the on position. So both switches had to be on in order for it to start up. So that is why that wire is there. So now even with the key on this one, you can turn the key in the on position, and then you also have to have that switch on in order to start this thing up. So it's still like that. Okay, so this piece just popped off like so. And all I did was reach in here, and just to show you, I just kind of pushed down on those to help kind of pop this guy out. I do have a new one of these, so I'm going to set that right in there, and then I assume, aha, okay, so on these, on the inside, there's a big, what do you call it, nut. So we need to take that off. So I think on that, let me grab the new one. This is our new one. I'm gonna go grab a socket that will fit that real quick. Wow, that's a pretty big socket. So it's a 27 mil. And usually these things aren't like super tight, so you could just stick a socket on there and then loosen it up. Okay, so got that out, and then it should just slide out just like so. And they have a washer in the back. And same thing with this new one. And just kind of keep an eye, so it looks like it's just to help key this. So I need to do the same thing on our new one. So this, just like that. Push that all the way back. And we can slide this through. And just like I thought, if you look right here, this is all part of this. This whole dash, this is all part of it. And then you can see this is where it's keyed to help lock this in place there. It helps add a little bit of support. Okay, so now let's get our new washer or nut on here and tighten this down. Now, if you notice right here, what I'm watching is there's a gap right here. There was a larger gap here, and what I'm doing is I'm just tying this up by hand until that gap goes away and this becomes pretty tight. And I'm just tightening it as tight as I can with my hand, and that's all you need. All right, so then we have our new little cover. We gotta line her up. Yeah, that's kind of on there. Let's get this. I think it's kind of at a slight angle. Looks like, feels like the lowers. There we go. We're popping in. I think it's probably just because it's just because it's slightly at an angle, too much of an angle. Okay, so let's see if we can kind of get that more straight on. Oh, I see. I think, okay, so I think what's going on is the plastic was just, when you're pushing it in, it was just kind of slightly deforming. Okay, so now that that's in there, you can turn this on and off with the new key. Okay, so now we need to continue with our lights. So we fixed our ignition. This is our old ignition. And now we need to continue with our lights. So this is the old light setup. So there's 12 volts going to this light switch. Now with our harness, to be honest, actually, let me look at this real quick because I think it's all self-contained. So we're getting power through there, sending it up. So this is the hookup to the battery. This is going straight to the switch. Usually there's a ground, power, and then switch for your lights. Yeah, so we actually don't need the power pulled off the ignition switch like were doing before. This is all self-contained. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is this wire here goes to our ignition switch, and the one that we crimped. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this wire because we don't need this one anymore. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. The less wire under here, the better. Anyway, okay, so and then we'll get this reconnected. Now when you tighten these, just get the lock washer compressed. All right, so now we can take this old ignition switch off, and to do that, we just take that. Usually there's some plastic piece or metal nut-like device that you just kind of screw on there, and that's what holds that in. So this whole part of the system is going to be removed. So we need to chase out all of these old wires. So let's see here. Now I pull this down. So it looks like this is kind of like old school. So this is some of the old wires right here. And see, here's the old headlight. And it looks like there are some zip ties along here. So I need to take all those off. And then it looks like over here on this side, there's a hole through the frame that they ran the wires for the other light area. So I need to fish that out. So let me go ahead and get a pair of dikes, and that's actually probably what this wire, no, I don't think that's a wire that goes to that. But let's go ahead and grab some dikes and get those out. All right. So get that zip tie removed. Now we're going to go in and we're going to re-secure things, because of course there is what looks like the original chassis harness, and then this hot all times fuse and battery. Okay, so there's a note on this, and let's fish out this old light. So it looks like I see it going through here. Oh yeah, so right here is our old wire for the old headlights. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this in, because then I don't have to worry about chasing this out of the hole in the frame that they ran these wires through. And then hopefully I can just pull the rest of these out. Let me do that on this side. And I always recommend just take your time and get all the old stuff off if you have anything old, because you don't need all this. You really don't. You don't need to be dragging it around. Okay, so then looks like all of this junk goes down, zip tied along here, and these are the old wires. So what I'm going to do, there's a total of 3. I'm going to go ahead and snip this because I am not chasing this down through there. So we'll get rid of that and move some of my tools over here so I can follow where the rest of these are going. So this looks like it's going along to this main chassis harness still. This falls, it goes down. And so it looks like there's a, so this is where there's an old pedal switch. So I'm gonna leave the switch, but I am gonna disconnect the switch. So if you look up here, it looks like there's wires that come up and then connect to the switch. I really don't want to mess with all of this. I like that there's a switch on here. I might utilize that for something in the future. So I'm not going to cut any of the wires that belong to that switch. But I will remove what goes to it. Okay, so it looks like right here, this harness is secured with this zip tie right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop that zip tie. And there's another one right there. That way we can see this a little easier. And I'm gonna take this zip tie off. And then I just want these 3 wires that we're coming up to the front. Take that zip tie off. We're gonna redo all these zip ties. Maybe not as many. We'll make this nice and clean. Okay, so we still have these 3 wires that we cut. We're following those through. And that's probably, yeah, so these are going in to the engine compartment. So what I did is I brought them out, and here we go. So over here, we have this wire that I'm feeding through by hand. This looks like a ground, because that's what was hooked up. And then I kind of lightly tugging on these other 2 so I can try to find where they're going. And I think that's these here. Okay, so this one. And then where's this other one? This other one. Oh, it looks like they have it tapped in to this little connector here. It's like a T connector. So let me just kind of disconnect it. So there's a T connector right here on this positive lead, and I just disconnected it. So I'm gonna pull, oh, actually, so that must go to the brake switch. Yeah, it goes to the brake switch. So that's what that was tapping into. And I pulled that wire up and through. Okay, so here are our 3 wires. And then let's get this zip tie off. So this is all after market. And then you can see right here at the 12 volts, they have tied in with a fuse. So that's what this is right here. It's our fuse. So since we have a positive lead or I mean negative, lead disconnect over there. Let's go ahead and disconnect our positive. Okay, so let me go ahead and just reconnect our positive lead for the main part of the golf cart, which is this guy. And when you get tight, just go a little bit. All right, so we reconnected that, and now we are still left. Okay, so this positive lead here, we can completely remove now. So now we're down to 2 wires, which I bet you it's a ground and positive lead that's going all the way up to the rear taillights. So, kind of feeling out. Okay, it looks like more zip ties right over here. And okay, so what we have is this eyelet here. I'm just going to snip the end of this. That way I can get rid of this whole piece. And I'm not having to cut that other zip tie because I don't think it's necessary. And then I can fish the remainder of this. And then what I'm also noticing is there is another lead, and this goes over to the switch. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut it right over here. And then I'm going to get underneath and I'm going to tie up with a little bit of that switch. So now we have these 3 wires. And I'm thinking the easiest way to get to these 3 is move this golf cart forward, and then we're going to remove this little subsection, little engine cover, I guess that's what they call it. So I'm just taking the 2 screws out. The screws right there, and then we'll pull this back. And now we can gain access in here a lot easier. Okay, so now I can really see, and I can reach in and I can grab these 2 wires and I can fish this through, which is where the old taillights were hooked up. Pull that all the way through, and then should be the same gig over here. There we go. See, now if you look, see, this is all crap you really don't need in there. So get rid of it. All right. So it looks like this is our switch. So this goes all to the front. And that's how you can tell from the front to back, is because this is our switch and that goes towards the rear. Okay, so I think the easiest way to install this is to start from the front and work our way back. Yeah, because now we can deal with little strings and stuff. So since they had it going up along this frame rail here, I'm going to try to do the same thing, and then when I zip tie everything, which I'll come back through afterwards after I route everything, make sure everything's the way I want it, I'll go back, come back and then zip tie everything. So since I have this bundle of 3 wires coming out of this single, I see right here with the original comes along this frame rail and it's protected on the inside. I'm gonna see if I can try to feed it through here, and then that way I can zip tie it along here and keep it nice and protected. So let's try to do that with this guy here. So I think the easiest way is start with one connector, feed that through, then the other connector, and then this last little bit here. So let's see if we... Yep, there's one. And then there's two. And then this little bundle of three. There we go. This is some pretty nice little harness. All right. So we know this is going to go to the dash. We got headlights. So it looks like I don't understand why they're color coded, to be honest, because unless they're talking about some kind of blinkers or something, but I don't see it didn't come like that, but they're color coded apparently, so red, white. So I just hooked up that one, and let's grab the other one. So this one, let's see, what's the best way? Okay, so I think the best way of doing this is this loom I'm gonna put up over this part of the frame, and on the very top, and then actually no. So what I did is I fished the wire in between these aluminum parts of the frame up and over this other piece right over here, and then back. I didn't put it up above because if someone sat on the top of this, it's not pinching the wires. So I'm feeding it through, and then what I'm gonna do is secure it underneath with some zip ties. But for now, let's go ahead and connect it onto this other side. So I fed it, where is it? Oh, here it is. So I fed it through here, and then we can connect it, like so. So I'm just gonna leave it loose for this moment. Okay, so we do have a switch. Let me grab that little switch. That's what this little guy is. And so since I took out my old one, I'm going to use that hole. So we're gonna step that up so I can reuse that hole. So that means we also need the wires coming up to this switch. So let me grab those wires, which are right here. I'm gonna go through that same hole that I showed earlier, and then I'm gonna reach up and grab it and just hang it out there. All right, so now let me grab a step bit. Okay, so when you do this, if you have a hole already, when you step it up, just make sure that you don't have anything behind there that you're going to catch on to cause any issues. Now the question is, how far do I need to go? It looks like I just took the end off, and then I just set it through my step bit. It looks like I go all the way to there. So I don't need to go up to the largest one, just the second to the largest. So go ahead and run that through. There we go. And now probably ream that out just a little bit. It's going on. There we go. Now the question is, which direction do I want it? So assume the light is on, just to let you know it's on. So I'm gonna face it up, and then you take your little lock or your retainer and you screw it down on the back side. Now I do have a little bit of plastic in my way. There we go. There we go. So what I had to do actually is I had to flip this plastic nut essentially around. There's actually a larger, flatter surface on this side than there is on the other side, but the only downside is the threads don't start until it's in a little bit. And the problem is I don't have a lot of threads there, so I wasn't able to grab it. So now that is on, make sure this is upright. There we go. And now let's grab our wire harness here. Okay, so now usually how these are, you have a ground, you have 12 volts, and then you have your switch-in voltage. Now, looking at this harness real quick, I kind of confirmed that. So red is our 12 volts because it's usually fused, and black is our ground. Sometimes in the DC world this is flipped, or I'm sorry, in the AC world it's flipped, so it can get a little confusing. Actually, incorrect. Hot is generally black, red can also be hot, white is usually neutral, green is ground. But sometimes in the DC world, some things get a little flip-flopped. On these switches, it is generally there's a switching, and on this, they have an LED that's being run. So the center should be load, the bottom should be our supply, and if we do a continuity test, so those two are connected when it's on, and then it's off, on, off. So it's switching between those. And then our earth is on the top, which is ground. And we're switching power, which is our switch, on the bottom. Perfect. I felt it kind of clip in. All right, so now that we have all of this hooked up, now let's go ahead and reinstall this dash. And to do that, we have to tuck this down gently, pushing that down, just like so. I think technically there's screws there, but I don't have them. And then possibly screws or something down there, and I don't have them. All right, so let's continue installing this. So now, our battery's in this position, and then this goes out to the two rear lights. So what I need to do is follow this frame rail. Oh yeah, and so here are the two wires for the brake pedal switch. And what I'm gonna do is I am going to roll these up, and then I'm gonna secure them with zip ties. But for now, I'm gonna leave them right there. Okay, so I'm gonna follow the harness for the golf cart and try to keep this in line with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two I'm gonna do one right here. There's a hole through here in the frame. And the reason why I'm trying to do it through this frame is it's protected through here. So if you're off-roading or whatever, and you keep it in here and you're not on the outside, you're not gonna ground out on it and damage the harness or your wiring. Okay, and then I have another one. Let's see if I can get that through. It's kind of hard to do because I can't see. So I'm just kind of feeling how this connector. There we go. So pull this through gently, and I'm gonna help nudge this also through. And then here's where our battery hooks up, and I believe, yeah, so I need this in the same area. And gently, never pull on these hard. Feed that through, just like so. Okay, so now for battery, I'm gonna try to feed it up here. I believe I should be able to see it up through there. So it's we're kind of in this section here. Oh, wait, nope. Okay, so we are actually, I think, in this section right here. Let me just double check. We are, yeah. Okay, which is fine. I just need to kind of feel it. So I'm kind of sticking my fingers down and trying to grab the little eyelets and try to help guide it or feel where it is. There we go. There's one. I'm not pulling hard on these wires, just gently help guide it. There we go. And then this will hook up to the battery. So we'll leave that like so. Now let's finish routing the rest of this. Came up along the inside of this rail. And the thing is, here's our exhaust. We don't want to be up against this exhaust at all. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to put a zip tie with this being held back, and then I'm going up on the back side of this, up and over. So I'm gonna cut this zip tie right here, which is not doing anything. So it's probably something old. And then I'm gonna run it on this side. I'm gonna follow through here. I'm gonna pull these up. So we are going to secure these back, way back there. So now the question is, which one's the red one? And which one's the white one? And what I'm gonna do is reach in this fender. So this one's red, which is over here, and then that one's white, which is kind of lame because it's a little bit shorter. And this one's a little bit longer, so they don't even mention that. So I think I'm gonna fix that. So I'd rather that the harness. Okay, so this one, oh, actually, I don't even need to change it. These connectors are the same. They're just colored different. So the shorter one is going to go this way. And over here, I'm going to keep it on this side of the frame. Always keeping in mind of moving parts, see what I can do to keep this protected. And then this one here, this one here, it's going to go on the other side of this part of the metal frame. The reason why I'm doing that is because I don't want it, even if a zip tie broke, I don't want it to drop down. And then put it on, do the same thing over here on this side of the frame and run it through. Okay, so now we did that. I'm gonna reach in and pull this part of the liner back a little bit and see if I can reach that. But I need to kind of tuck it in a little bit more. So I'm gonna go over here and kind of fish it down. There we go. So what I did is I reached my hand in there, kind of tucked it down in here. Now I should be able to reach into this liner, and here it is. And then I can plug it in, even though it's a different color. Like so. So let that sit in there. We are going to secure all of this, but right now we just want to make sure everything is hooking up and everything works. Because what sucks is when you get everything hooked up and secured and then it doesn't work. All right, so connected that one too. So now this is pretty easy. So all it is these two eyelets here. We have our 8mm. Disconnect the positive first. Our ground is already disconnected, so we don't even have to worry about that. And then put our positive eyelet over. Okay, so what kind of sucks is this is slightly too small for my bolt. So I'm going to have to take a little file and kind of file that a little bit to make that fit. The thing is, you can't use a drill, sadly. You'll just you'll mess it up. I don't have another eyelet that size. Yeah, so if you have this in a drill and you did this, you would, one, hurt yourself, and then two, this would be just all boogered up and bent and tweaked. And three, this is just copper. I don't know if that was enough. There we go. That's what you want. You want to make sure you can still spin it. Okay, so I got that one on first, and then we'll get this one. So I'm going to set it on this side to help keep that from spinning on me. Let me grab my 8mm. Perfect. So that is connected. Now we can go ahead and connect our ground. Unfortunately, I have a feeling it's going to be the same issue. Yep. Now just get this nice and snug. There we go. Now that's all nice and tight. All right, so now if everything's done right, I should be able to hit this little switch. That light will come on and all the lights will come on. And look at that. Cool. All the lights are working. All right. And then if I hit the switch, turns it off, and we're good. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and secure the harness. I don't think we need to show video of all of that. Basically, just go in, make sure everything's nicely secure, make sure it's all routed properly like I was talking about. Keep in mind the exhaust, keep in mind a movement, and everything else. And if in case you bottom out or hit something, that it's as secured as possible. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick, and then we will continue on to doing the seat. I'll have to go get the hardware for that, so I'll go get that, and then we'll finish the seat, and then we should be good. I got done with the zip ties, so I properly secured it, and I finally got the right bolts. So we're gonna install that, but everything's secured. You can see I have zip ties there. I have zip ties there, over there, all along. So everything is nicely secured, and made sure that, you know, things weren't super tight. Before I put the seat on real quick, I do need to put this cover back on. So I'm gonna do that real quick. Just the 2 screws. So now that's secured, let's go ahead and install the seat finally. So there's 2 bolt holes that are a little closer. Honestly, it doesn't really matter because we're only using the top and lower. So I'm gonna run this through. Run this through. Now I'm gonna make sure that this is where we want it and properly lined up. Everything looks good. So I grab this and get this on here first. Now and I did, while I was at the hardware store, I did get some lock washers, and I do believe I got it. Yep, okay, so now come on that side. And then kind of sneak this down in there. Cool, we finally got them. Okay, so since I have lock washers on them, I'm basically gonna get them nice and snug where the lock washers are compressed. You really don't need to go any further than that. Okay, so just a little turn there, and go back up to this one, same thing. Now that is on there. Cool. So let's go ahead and get our seat reinstalled. Before I do that, I'm just gonna show you real quick a quick little mod that you can do. On these golf carts, especially these older ones, they're really known for the fuel pump over pressurizing and over riding the needle on these carburetors. So what I ended up doing is I put a T in here and I split it off, and then I also drilled a little hole in the gas tank, and then with this little valve here I can open and close this. I have it open, and so what happens is the fuel will come up through this tube, down through the fuel pump to this fuel line, and it'll tee off, and so the carburetor will take whatever fuel it needs, and then any excess pressure will then be relieved and then dumped right back into this gas tank. After doing that, I rarely have had any carb issues where basically it's just overflowing, overpressurizing that carb, and then it's just flooding it out, causing fuel to leak out that carb. Apparently it's a kind of a known issue with these, this particular, I don't know if it's engine, but with this particular golf cart in general. So just wanted to kind of show that. So let's go ahead and get this seat installed. And there we go. So let's go ahead. Oh, that actually fits in there just nicely. And what's also kind of nice, what I do notice, so if you look back here real quick, this handle, when you run the seat down, this handle is cupped up. I think it's supposed to be cupped down, because then it will kind of hold on to this, and will kind of this will act like support for this, and then it will cup over, and it's rounded just like it should be. So the thing is, I think these were nuts. There was nuts on these, on the back side of this, wasn't there? Yeah, I think there was. So if I wanted to flip this over, I would have to take the seat off. And you know what? I'm gonna do that because I kind of like that idea of that cupping over. So we're gonna do that real quick, and then the last thing on this was there was these little caps that was in this kit, and these little caps looks like they go here. They don't say where to put them, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2, 4, 6, 7. So that's exactly what that is. So we're gonna take this off real quick. We're gonna fix this. It's just the little details that I personally like to keep track of. So we're gonna go ahead and pull this off. And then the seat comes off. See, and it looks like I had these pretty low, so I think I might change the position of it just a little bit too. But let's fix this. See, these are the little details they don't even mention in there. So even though in the picture it looks like it goes the other way, I personally think it should go this way from what I'm seeing now that I have that on. So just to show you, see how it cups it nicely? That's exactly how it should be. So let me keep this down. Okay, so that's nicely cupped. So that would actually help with putting weight in here too. Okay, so now let's get our seat reinstalled. These are nice and tight. Just before I put these caps on, you can see cups over that nicely, so you can put a lot more weight on this. It goes down, and then this looks clean all the way across, so that's way better. So we'll put these caps on. Yeah, it's these two. Just like so. Let's go ahead and we'll pull this thing out. So overall, that's how you kind of rejuvenate a golf cart, kind of update it. If you have any questions, please post below. I'll go ahead and post a link of all the stuff that I put on this golf cart. Outside of that, on to the next one. Wait a second, I forgot a friend. Come on, Ollie, let's go. You ready? Let's do this. Maybe.